Hi my friends, and welcome to May's reading wrap up. It's been quite a good month. We've only got 2 DNFs, had some audiobooks and some physical reads. So grab yourself a cuppa and let's see what we've been reading this month. I'm Pippa and this is Calm Stitch Reads. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'd love to know what you've read in May. So we'll start with the DNFs. I've got two DNFs. The first one was the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I had such high hopes for this one. It's part of a completed trilogy, so I was really looking forward to just binge reading the whole series, and I couldn't cope with how it was written. I did try. I really did try. It's every other chapter is written in second person, so they're using the pronoun you. You do this, you are doing that, you say this, and I really cannot cope with books that are written like that. I like first person books, I can do third person books, but I cannot do second person books. I've tried a few over the years and they're not for me. I tried to give this a really good go because it's every other chapter, so I thought, okay, maybe I can cope for every other chapter. So I think I made it chapter 5, I think it was, chapter 4, chapter 5. So I made it a good chunk through, but I just couldn't. It was giving me the rage. So I just had to leave it. So a DNF for me. The next DNF was quite a surprise because I've read other books by this author and really enjoyed them. So this is The Handmaid God by Rachel Joyce. It's very different to her other books. So the book that I've enjoyed from her previously was Miss Benson's Beetle, and that was a story of friendship, finding yourself, healing. This was not that. This was more about family dynamics and what happens when a father, an older father, sort of 50s, 60s, remarries a much younger woman, and how his older children cope or don't cope with it. They're all married, they all have their families, they're all adult children, and then he dies, and then there's all the stuff surrounding that. I made it over halfway through, I think, but I found myself not caring about these characters. I didn't particularly like them. And so life's too short. So I just DNF'd. I would like to try some of her other books, but this was a no from me. Really didn't like this one. On to my audiobook. So I've got some notes here, so I'll try to remember to keep looking at the camera. This is the second time I've tried filming this because I found myself, I was looking down, and that's not very good, is it? So we'll do it in they're not in any particular order, they're just in the order that I wrote them down. So this was actually my first audiobook of the month, was Dissolution by Nicholas Binge. Absolutely fantastic. Speculative sci-fi. I love a speculative sci-fi. I loved his previous book that I listened to on audio. I think that's called Ascension. I highly recommend it as well. Very different. So this follows Maggie. I think she's 83 years old, and she travels into the memories of her husband, who suffers from amnesia, or he's in a coma, and the only way to save him is to travel back through his memories. And she travels back through from when he was at school, university, working, trying to pick up little clues to help in the future. It's very well written, very cleverly done. Did not see the ending coming. I loved Maggie as a character. She was a feisty lady, and I love a strong female character, and it was actually really nice to read a book with such an older main female character in it. I don't think I've ever read a book with an 83-year-old main female character in it before, and I thought she was absolutely phenomenal. The love she had for her husband was truly incredible, and what she went through and what she did to try and help him by traveling through his memories, it got me, because she really did love him and he really did love her. He just couldn't remember. And it was nice to see their story develop as she was traveling back through his memories to then get to where we were at the end. So highly recommend it. It was very easy to listen to. I'd highly recommend the audio. It wasn't too long either. I listened to it on my commute to and from work, so it was quite easy to listen to. You didn't have to concentrate too much, but you still got the general idea of the story. So highly recommend it. Next is Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I'm currently on book 3 at the moment. So in May, I listened to book 1 and book 2. So obviously I can't tell you too much about book 2 or book 3. But book 1, wow, I'm loving this. I did not expect that. This is one of these books that has sort of been overhyped over the years, and I wasn't sure whether I would enjoy it going in, because sometimes when books are overhyped, I don't always enjoy them. But I thought I'd give it a go. I got it on my BookBeat. I pay for it, so I pay for the subscription, so it doesn't really matter if I enjoy a book or don't enjoy a book. I then just pick another book. So I thought I'd give it a go, and I'm so glad I did. I'm absolutely loving it. It's one of those books where I actually enjoyed getting myself into work in the morning, because it's about a 40-minute commute. I live on 2 times speed, so it's roughly about an hour and a bit I get through each trip, so it's 2 hours a day. And I devoured it. I found myself wanting to clean the house extra so I could listen to some more of the story as well. So it's about a character called DM. She is immortal. Many sort of their backstory, sort of the lore of the land, is the kindred, who are their gods, created the mortals, and then they created the descended to help look after the mortals. So the descended, instead of looking after the mortals, they sort of treat them more like slaves. They don't really look after them. They're classed as second-class citizens, while the descended are almost like the gods now. They live in luxury. They have everything they want. They have a very long lifespan. And DM's being brought up in this. She obviously doesn't like them. She doesn't like what they stand for. She does everything that she can to try and help make her life better, make her family's life better. And one day her mum disappears, and you don't actually know, has she just disappeared? Has she died? Has she gone away? DM and her family, they just don't know. And 6 months after this happens, DM's taken over her mother's role as healer, but she wants answers. She wants to know what's happened to her mother. So she finds a way to start helping the resistance, helping find ways into the castle to get close to people who are in the castle, that descended castle, try and get close to the king to find out but the king is ill. So she goes in as a healer, as what her mother was doing. She has so many questions, but she's not getting any answers, but she doesn't give up. Sort of I made notes. So it's like, what lengths will she go to help herself, to help her family, to help find her mother, to help her people. And it's quite interesting to see how far she will go. I'm just trying to find out about what happened to her mother. My camera's doing weird things again. Absolutely fantastic. And then obviously book 2 follows on from that. And then book 3 I'm currently on now. What's really good is in September this is going to be a completed quartet 4-book. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where that goes. I'm slightly concerned with how long the 4th book might be, because the 3rd book is 35 hours long on audio, so it's quite an epic. They seem to have got longer each time, but absolutely loving it. Really high recommend it, and I feel this is one of those books that's definitely worth the hype. So that was my there was one more audio book. It's because I haven't, these notes, they're all over the place. It's Not What You Think by Claire McIntosh. So this is more of a thriller, psychological thriller, murder mystery, all rolled into one. And Nadika is convinced her husband is having an affair. She recognises the signs from her previous relationship, and she tries to catch him out. So she phones him one day because she doesn't believe he's at work, working late. He isn't, he's at home, and she can hear a female voice in the background. So she drives home, desperate to try and catch him in the act. But when she gets there, she doesn't get any answers because he's dead, he's been murdered. And you follow the different characters. So you have Nadika's point of view, you have the detective's point of view, and you have, I think it's James, her husband's, was it James? I can't remember. I haven't got it in front of me because it was an audio book. But we also have some points of view from her husband as well, all leading up to what really happened in this murder. It was very good. I love the narrator. I think it was about 3 different narrators. I love Richard Armitage. He was very good. And the lady who narrated Nadika was very good. I can't remember what she was called, but highly recommend it. It's sort of unreliable narrators, mystery, intrigue, so many questions. Absolutely fantastic, and it made a nice change from all the fantasy that I've been reading recently, because I do love a thriller, I do love a murder mystery, but I go through phases, and at the moment I'm definitely going through a fantasy phase, but this was really nice as something different. Moving on to a book that I don't own. I got this one from the library, and I'm just looking down now to see if I can. Called To Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering. This was okay. I'd call this more of a palate cleanser than anything else, but a solid 3 stars. I did enjoy it. Was it Helena? Might have been Helena. I read this towards the beginning of the month. I'm absolutely terrible at remembering characters' names. She is invited to her friend's wedding, and as she's travelling to her friend's wedding, we have flashbacks to when she was at college, sort of university, and when she meets, I think it's Stephen, who is a bit of a playboy, a bit of a player, a bit of a lad, and their toxic relationship. So it sort of flits between the 2 timelines as we find out what happened between the pair of them and sort of where they are now. It was a very toxic relationship. I did get the rage as I was reading it. I mean, we've all had, I'm sure his name was Stephen, we've all had a Stephen in our lives who is very narcissistic, very gaslighty, treats you absolutely horrifically, and you don't actually realise how bad of a relationship you're in until you actually get out of it. So I did get the rage, but it was very good as a palate cleanser, and like I said, it was a solid 3 star. Nothing to write home about, but it was okay. Right, next, my physical books that I've got here that I did read, and again, these aren't really in any particular order, they're just in the order that I put them on the sofa, from paperback to hardback. So we'll start off with, this is my new god tier book, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This was absolutely fantastic. It's a short book, And I have so many questions after reading this. You do not go into this book coming out knowing really any more than you do going in. And I feel like it's one of those books that's sort of splitting the book community a little bit. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So we don't find out much of anything other than there are a group of women who have been trapped in or imprisoned in this bunker underground for an indeterminate amount of time. We don't know, we never find out. And there's a young girl who has grown up in this bunker. We never fully find out how old she is, maybe about 14, 15 when we start reading this. And she's been in there since she was very young. And the guards aren't allowed to talk to them, so we don't get any answers. The only people they have to talk to are the people, other women in the prison with them. They have their food provided, they have their basic needs provided for, and that's pretty much it. There's alluded to what happened in the past for them to have ended up in this bunker, but we never get anything solid. One day a siren goes off and prison guards all just run away, they disappear. But thankfully the key had been left in the lock and the women managed to escape, and they escape into this unknown world and they have to survive it. And is very sad, it's very thought-provoking, but underlying it all is a story of female friendship, perseverance, and I absolutely loved it. I would highly recommend it. It didn't take me very long to read at all, but if you're looking for something that is definitely full of female friendship, but you don't get any answers to any of your questions, then this is definitely the book for you. Next up we have Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. I'm still unsure whether this is going to be a duology or a trilogy. I've heard different things from different people, but this was another book I absolutely loved. I think it's Allaha people. I was reading this, so sometimes when I'm reading it, I don't always know how to pronounce these words. I kind of make them up in my head and hope they're the right ones. So the Allaha people have been exiled to live on the sea, and Bryn has been brought up in this environment. She's trained to be a guard, and one of their rites of passage is to go to the Kent market on the land. And obviously they don't want to cause any trouble when they get there, but things don't quite go according to plan, and Bryn is accused of stealing, and she's threatened with having her hand cut off because the Allah's punishments are quite severe. So one of the Kentish soldiers was going to try and punish her in the Allah style. They managed to escape, obviously get back to their homes, but then we deal with the fallout. All about what Bryn will then do to protect herself, to protect her family. It's very well written, and the problem is you can't say too much because there is such the biggest twist in this book, and I did not even see any hints for it, because I've read over the years, I've read quite a few fantasy books. You start to see, I suppose, the hints of a way a book might go, and I definitely didn't see that in this one. And all I'm going to say is I loved the world. I loved Bryn. I loved that it didn't go where I thought it was going to go, and I'm really excited for book 2, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to wait for it to come out in paperback or if I'm going to have to get the hardback. That's how much I love this one. So she was forged for war. He was born from it. Could their love be the deadliest weapon? So it's absolutely fantastic. Next up, I have a book that I had for an Instagram book tour recently. Best of All the Worlds by Kenneth Oppel. And this was Waterstone's May's YA Book of the Month pick. Absolutely brilliant. So one day Xavier, his dad, his stepmom and his stepmom's pregnant, they go to bed in their house like normal. Next day they wake up and their whole house, everything in it has been moved, and they're now covered by a dome. They don't know how they got there. They try to escape, they can't escape. They are provided with everything that they need. So sort of farming equipment, seeds, goats, chickens. And Xavier's stepmom, can't remember what her name is now, has to give birth there as well because they can't escape. They have so many questions, but all they can do is just try and survive. So that's what they do for the next 3 years until along come another family, and this other family have such unusual conspiracy theory ideas, and they have weapons as well, and they clash with each other over these ideas, over the weapons, over what they should do to escape. And it reminded me a little bit of Stephen King's Under the Dome and a cross with The Maze Runner. So sort of that unknown with being trapped and you don't know why you're trapped. It also have left some unanswered questions at the end, because I can't say, but yeah, you have unanswered questions at the end. But it's a very well written book. I flew through it. It wasn't very long, but I absolutely loved it, and I'd love to read more by Kenneth Oppel as well. So recommend it if you just want a nice, quick, easy read, YA read. I don't know whether it's more sci-fi than anything else, but it really was absolutely amazing. Would highly recommend it. Next up is This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews. This is a husband and wife writing team, which I did not know when I picked it up. This was so intriguing. So Maggie wakes up in her favourite fantasy story, and she knows this story inside out. It was meant to be a trilogy, but the author only wrote books 1 and book 2, and she's read them so many times over the years, she knows it inside out. So when she wakes up here, she's obviously very surprised, quite shocked, doesn't really know what's going on, but she's also quite scared because she knows what happens in these stories, and it is absolutely horrific. Some of the things that happen in these stories is definitely not for the faint-hearted. And the only way for her to survive in this world is to try and help some of the characters that she knows from reading the stories. But the problem is she can't change too much, because then she won't actually know what's going to happen. So it's, I suppose, a very slippery slide with where she can go. She can't go too far. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of info dumping, because obviously we don't know what's going on in this world, but Maggie knows this world because she's read it, she's breathed it, she's lived it, but we don't. I did find myself getting a little bit confused towards the end. There were so many different characters. Some of the characters had very similar sounding names, and I did find myself getting a bit confused towards the end. But I thought it was such an intriguing idea. I've never actually read a book quite like it before. I love the writing style. I'm excited for book 2, because it did leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger. But as of recording this, I don't know when book 2 is going to be coming out, but highly recommend if you want a book full of, it's political intrigue, magic, mayhem, a slight love interest, but that's definitely not the main point of the story. The main point of the story is her survival, how she survives, found family. That's the main plot of this story, and I was there for it, absolutely loved it. So yeah, looking forward to book 2. Next up, we had something very different The Last Starborn Seer by Venetia Constantine. Now this, I think this is billed as an adult book, but I felt it read more YA with how the characters were interacting. They came across very young, and they were actually very young. Well, compared to me, they're very young. I think Leilani's only, I think she's only 18, and the love interests, because there's two, I think one was 20, one was 24, so they do come across very, very young. So just beware with how, when you go into this, they're very young characters and they come across that way as well. But overall, it was a lovely story. I'm looking at my notes. So Leilani is cursed with Starborn magic, and she has to try and save her mother, who is very ill. To do that, she has to join together the 4 realms of the kingdom. But these 4 realms have been at war for many, many years. So it's about how she goes about that. But while that is all happening, she's also been betrothed to someone that she doesn't really want to marry. And I still don't know where it's going with this, because there was obviously his character as the love interest, and some of the chapters are written for him, his point of view. And there's also one of the other characters as a love interest. So I'm not sure where it's going to go with either of those. But it was a lovely story. If you love celestials, stars, astrology, almost a bit whimsical, then this is a story for you. And if you don't mind reading, I suppose, more of a YA fantasy than a adult fantasy, it's a lovely story. I did love the story of sort of like the friendship again, and their interactions with each other. I love the magical system. It's very different, very unique. I loved the journey they all went on to try and help Leilani's mother. And if you don't do anything else, check out the character artwork. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's all on her website. Absolutely stunning artwork. It really is. So if you want sort of unique magic, whimsy, slightly YA, this is definitely one to pick up. Starside by Alex Aster. I absolutely devoured this one. This was a present from my husband, and it has the most gorgeous hardcover. My first Alex Aster book. I've heard mixed things about her. Is it Larklight? But I wanted to give this one a go because this one's definitely built for adults. So hundreds of years ago, the world was split into 2. One side for the mortals, one side for the gods. The gods obviously live in luxury, have everything they want, have the magic, whereas the mortals live in despair. They don't really have much of anything. Their crops don't grow. There's starvation, famine, and every 50 years they have the opportunity to enter Starside to win some of their magic elixir, which they can then bring back to their side, and they can use that to do whatever they want with. And normally it's used to sort of help grow the crops, help to keep everyone protected, help keep everyone alive. Now this year Aris has decided to enter, and she's not entered to win the chalice of the liquid. She's entered to get revenge on the goddess who killed her family, and to do that she has to pass the trials. They are quite brutal, but they're not a huge part of the book. I went in thinking the trials were going to be a big part of the book, but they're not. They're over within the first few chapters. But they have to be, she has to pass these trials, the culling, to be one of the 50 that is allowed to enter Starside. And then most of the book is about her journey on the other side. Yeah, the main part is her survival in Starside. I loved Aris as a character. She was fueled by revenge. She was not giving up. She was a woman on a mission, and I love that about her. She was not going to give up, and it didn't matter who got in her way or what trouble she caused along the way, because she did cause quite a bit of trouble for one of the characters, which I did find quite funny. She was going to do what she needed to do to get revenge on this goddess that had killed her family, and I loved that about her. It is a romantasy, but again, it's not a huge, too big a part. It's mainly about her growth as a character, her journey, how she survives, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And as quite a few of my books have recently, it did have quite a cliffhanger, which I did not see coming, and I enjoyed it that much. I pre-ordered Stormside, which is due out I think September, November time. I've pre-ordered that straight away, so that as soon as I get it, I can carry on reading it. So thankfully it's not actually too long to wait. It's only a few months from when I'm recording this, but it's absolutely brilliant. Highly recommend it. So brilliant book. Next up is Fury Bound, which is the second part of the Walls of Ruin. The first part was Direbound. Obviously I can't tell you what happens in this, but I can tell you what Direbound was about. So there's two sides. There's the bonded, who I suppose they live in luxury, they're bonded to their dire wolves, and then there's the non-bonded, who don't have as much luxury. And Meryn has been brought up with not a lot of money. Her father died many years ago. Her mother's been trying to bring her and her younger sister up, but her mother is very ill. She has a lot of mental health issues, so check your trigger warnings. And the only way Meryn can help them all survive is by fighting in the fighting pits, doing the jobs that she can. So she's a very strong character. She does what she needs to survive. But one day her sister is kidnapped, and the only way that Meryn can think of to save her is to become bonded with a direwolf, so that she can then go into the enemy territory to try and save her sister, because she believes it's the enemy that has taken her sister. So a lot of this book has the trials in. Oh, a book nearly fell on the floor. And how Meryn reacts to that, in the hopes that she will bond to a direwolf, but things don't necessarily go according to plan. This is another book that I loved just because of the friendship and the found family and the perseverance of the main female character not giving up. Doesn't matter how tough things got, she did not give up, and I absolutely loved that about her. And then Fury Bound, which is what I read in May, just carries on straight as Direbound ends, and I love this one just as much. I love that we went to some different places in the world this time round. We were introduced to some new characters who I loved, and I enjoyed it just as much as book one. So I'm really looking forward to book 3, which I'm not 100% sure if that comes out this year or next year, but I'm really looking forward to it coming out. So highly recommend these two. And then the last book was Bloodbound by Ellis Hunter. This is another dual book written by 2 writers. Absolutely love this one. This was one of my anticipated reads for this year, and I did sort of go into it blind. I only knew what it said on the blurbs. You cannot forfeit, you cannot run, you duel or die. And that's pretty much why I bought the book, because I thought that sounds absolutely incredible, and it really was incredible. So it's told from 2 different points of views. We've got Astrid, who is the last, I'm not sure how to pronounce this properly, Natchton Witch. I apologise if I haven't pronounced that properly. And she's been brought up knowing that she has to duel the heir of the kingdom of Vatia, I think it is, for the heart. And the heart is the source of all power. And every sort of generation, every couple of generations, the two heirs from each side have to duel to the death. And if they don't, they die. And they duel to the death for the heart, which means they then have the power to help their kingdoms survive. Now Astrid is desperate to win this because her kingdom has been marred by a blight, crops aren't growing, people are dying, there's the most horrific weather conditions which are affecting everybody, and she knows she has to win, but there is a slight problem because her magic has disappeared since her father died. So she's obviously worried about that and training for that. Then the other point of view is Skylar. And she's part of a travelling troupe who's come to the city to watch the duel and also to earn some money, as there's obviously going to be lots of people coming to the city to watch the duel. And her and Astrid's paths, destinies cross, and this is mainly a story about their friendship, their interactions, their pain, and I absolutely loved it. I feel like it's been wrongly billed as a romantasy. There is some romance in here, but the main plot for me was the friendship between the two women, and at times it was quite heartbreaking because Astrid knows she's got to fight or she's going to die, and to have that knowledge and for her family and friends to have that knowledge, it is quite heartbreaking. And it went into the duel sort of quite late. Most of it was the build up, the 6-week build up to the duel, and it didn't really go where I thought it was going to go. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the end. It was a bit strange, the end, but I am so intrigued for book 2 when it comes out, whenever that may be. But highly recommend this. Love the writing style, love the female characters. Again, these two female characters, they're desperate to do whatever they can to survive, to help their people survive, and I love that about these two characters. I think that's what I've loved about most of my books this month. It's about female friendship, not giving up, perseverance. Absolutely brilliant. So I've had a really good reading month. So chat to me down in the comments. What have you enjoyed reading in May? What are some of your best books in May? Do you disagree with anything I've said? Which is obviously fine. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you made it to the end and don't want to leave a comment, and just leave me a flower emoji. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in whatever comes next.